Welcome to the Deep Dive. Our mission here is simple. We take a mountain of information articles, research, critical analysis, and distill it down into the strategic, often surprising insights that matter most.
And today, we are deep diving into the career of an actress whose very professional existence seems to be, well, a masterclass in resistance. Kate Winslet, CBE.
Right. When you think about an actress of her stature, the story's usually pretty straightforward. Talent meets opportunity, and then you get blockbuster success.
But with Winslet, the sources show something much, much more complex. I mean, she's known globally for these iconic period dramas, these epic romances.
Titanic, obviously.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yet her entire professional life, which is now spanning 3 decades, has really been defined by actively pushing back against typecasting and, maybe even more remarkably, resisting that global fame itself.
And that's the core paradox we really want to unravel today. We're looking beyond just the filmography to understand the intentional choices that built her professional identity. This isn't just about, watching her movies. It's about getting into the strategy, the roles she took, the ones she turned down, and the social issues she decided to champion. All of these things set her up for this incredible longevity.
And you can see that longevity just by looking at the awards. I mean, the list is staggering. We're talking about an Oscar, 5 BAFTAs, 5 Golden Globes, 2 Primetime Emmys.
And a Grammy. Don't forget the Grammy.
And a Grammy, exactly. Time magazine has named her one of the 100 most influential people in the world, not once, but twice, first in 2009 and then again in 2021.
The accolades really do put her in that top tier of global performers, no matter how you measure it.
For sure.
But let's get straight to the biggest contradiction, the one that really defines the strategy. How does the lead actress of Titanic, the highest-grossing film of all time back then, the film that makes her a global A-lister at just 22 years old, how does she then intentionally choose to avoid blockbusters for almost 20 years? She didn't just cash in.
No, she didn't parlay that success into, a superhero franchise or a string of romantic comedies. She consciously chose the path less traveled.
She focused on what the sources call headstrong and complicated women in independent films.
Exactly. She prioritized roles that were thorny or unlikable or just deeply challenging over the ones that were, commercially safe. It's a fascinating study in putting the craft first.
The artistic journey over the instant paycheck.
Right. It was about longevity, not just fleeting celebrity.
So was that a calculated risk, or was it just about prioritizing artistic sanity? I think we need to look at where that determination came from.
Okay.
Let's unpack this and start right at the beginning, in her formative years.
Winslet was born in Reading, Berkshire in 1975. And her family was, completely immersed in the performing arts. Her parents were actors. And her maternal grandparents actually ran the local reading repertory theater company.
So the creative influence was there.
The creative influence was definitely there. But what wasn't there was financial stability. At all.
And the sources paint a really clear picture of that. This was not some privileged RC childhood.
Not in the slightest. The family relied heavily on free meal benefits, on various forms of government support. They even got aid from the Actors Charitable Trust.
Just to get by.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Her father was a struggling actor, so he was constantly having to take on laboring jobs just to keep the family afloat.
And that financial pressure got even worse, didn't it? There was an accident.
Yeah, that's a key moment. When Kate was 10, her father suffered a really severe foot injury in a boating accident. That made manual labor almost impossible for him for a long time.
So the stress on the family must have been immense.
It increased exponentially. It made her early dream of acting less of a fantasy and more of a practical necessity. It was in her blood, but it was also a way to contribute.
Still, despite all those constraints, she was deeply involved in local theater. Groups like Foundations and the Star Maker Theater Company.
She was constantly performing. But the sources point to this crucial early insecurity. She was almost always overlooked for the lead roles.
Right, she was the character actress from the start.
Yes, she was often given these memorable but, non-starring parts. She played Miss Agatha Hannigan in Annie the Antagonist. She was passed over for the central spotlight, and she said later it was because of her physical appearance.
She was bullied for her weight, wasn't she?
She was. She admitted that she was called Blubber by her schoolmates and was frequently bullied as a child.
And that sense of rejection, that insecurity from her childhood, it becomes such a vital piece of context when you look at her later career.
Oh, absolutely. Her fiercely defended stance on body image and authenticity in Hollywood, which we'll get into later, it all stems from this. It wasn't just an intellectual position, it was deeply personal.
It was a reaction to that early trauma.
And the money problems continued right into her teens. She was at Red Roof's theater school, but by 16 she had to drop out. The family just couldn't afford the tuition anymore.
And what did she do?
She immediately got a job at a delicatessen to support herself.
Wow. The actress who would go on to win an Oscar and a Grammy was slicing ham to pay the rent.
It just speaks volumes about the grit required just to stay in the game at that point.
But she found her way back to the screen pretty quickly. Her first professional job was at 15 in 1991.
Right, in a BBC sci-fi series called Dark Season, which was written by a then unknown Russell T Davies.
The same Russell T Davies who rebooted Doctor Who?
The very same. There's another interesting detail that comes up in 1992 after she filmed a TV movie called Anglo-Saxon Attitudes.
This is a key motivational moment, isn't it?
It is. The source notes that she weighed about 13 stone 3 pounds, which is 185 pounds at the time, and an offhand comment from the director, just an unthinking remark, motivated her to lose weight.
Which shows that even then, she understood that the industry demanded a certain kind of conformity, even if she would later become a revolutionary against those very standards.
Exactly. It's a very quick evolution from the deli counter to her major film debut in 1994, which the sources rightly call a cinematic baptism by fire.
Peter Jackson's Heavenly Creatures?
Yes. She beat out 175 other actresses for the part of Juliet Home.
And this role immediately set the template for her entire career, didn't it? Intense, complex, emotionally draining characters.
It really did. She was playing one half of a real-life duo of teenage girls involved in a notorious 1954 murder case in New Zealand. The material itself was just incredibly dark and demanding.
And her preparation, even for this debut role, was staggering. It established her signature commitment.
Oh, completely. She didn't just learn her lines. She immersed herself. She read the trial transcripts, the letters, the diaries of the real girls. She even tracked down and spoke with people who actually knew them.
She needed to understand the psychology behind it all.
The deep psychological codependency that led to this horrific crime. And the emotional toll on her was immense.
Because Jackson filmed on the real locations, right?
He did, which Winslet found deeply disturbing. She described the whole experience as traumatizing and said that after coming home from the set each day, she'd just find herself crying, completely unable to detach from the character.
So that total immersion wasn't just a choice. It was part of her artistic process from day one, and it was rewarded almost immediately.
Absolutely. Critics saw her raw power right away. And her next big break came while she was promoting Heavenly Creatures. She auditioned for a tiny role in Ang Lee's 1995 adaptation of Sense and Sensibility.
But Emma Thompson, who wrote the screenplay and was starring in it, saw something more.
She did. Thompson was so impressed by Winslet's energy and her presence that she lobbied for her to be cast in the lead role of Marianne Dashwood.
That's an amazing story. But the preparation Ang Lee put her through sounds just as illustrative of her dedication.
It really is. He was worried she didn't have the kind of period restraint needed for a Jane Austen story, given her intense debut. So he basically put her in training.
What did that involve?
She had to practice Tai Chi to improve her movement and posture, and she had to read volumes of Gothic literature to really internalize the emotional landscape of the era.
It was a form of artistic discipline.
It was. And the result was just stellar. The film was a global hit, and her performance earned her the BAFTA for Best Supporting Actress and her very first Academy Award nomination, all before she turned 21.
She immediately followed that up in 1996 with 2 more period films, Jude and Kenneth Branagh's Hamlet. So she's back in the corset, but she's still challenging the conventions.
Precisely. Critics noted that she brought this distinct mad edge and defiance to roles like Ophelia and Sue Bridehead. She was already being drawn to characters with this intense internal turmoil.
She was refusing to just be the pretty heroine.
Even while filming Hamlet, surrounded by these established classical actors, she admitted she felt intimidated. But the critics said she played Ophelia well beyond her years.
So this early period really established 2 things: her immense talent and a preference for characters that demanded intense emotional work regardless of the box office.
Exactly. And that dedication set the stage for the true pivot point of her entire career.
Which, of course, is 1997 and the astronomical phenomenon that was Titanic.
It's just impossible to talk about her career without acknowledging the sheer scale of that film.
And the casting story is legendary because it just shows her force of will. The director, James Cameron, was apparently reluctant to cast her.
Yeah, he was looking at other actresses like Claire Danes or Gwyneth Paltrow. He wanted someone perhaps a little less intense.
But Winslet took matters into her own hands.
She absolutely did. She went straight to Cameron and famously pleaded, "You don't understand. I am Rose. I don't know why you're even seeing anyone else."
She basically willed herself into the part.
She won it through sheer, unadulterated conviction. It just shows a tenacity that was incredible for her age.
And what a contrast to the young woman who felt intimidated by Shakespeare just a year before. When she wants something, she commits entirely.
But the shoot itself, my God, it sounded physically brutal. It lasted 8 months.
It was a massive production, one of the biggest budgets ever at the time, $200 million.
And Winslet endured it all. She reported experiencing hypothermia. She had several near-drowning incidents, severe bruising, and she was often working on just 4 hours of sleep a night.
She later said she felt totally drained by it.
Both physically and emotionally. But the outcome, of course, was transformative.
Titanic tied the record for most Academy Awards, with 11 wins. It became the highest-grossing film of all time, eventually crossing the $2 billion mark worldwide.
And just like that, at 22, Kate Winslet was not just famous. She was a global cultural phenomenon.
And this is where the intentional strategic rebellion begins. The standard playbook for an actress after a hit like that
Is to take the next 10 blockbusters, secure the massive salary, settle into that comfortable A-list stardom.
But she did the exact opposite.
The complete opposite. She actively avoided parts in big-budget films for nearly a decade. This is a conscious, career-defining pivot.
She later said she believed she still had a lot to learn and wasn't ready to just be a massive star.
Right. It was a calculated retreat. She was, in a way, using the fame from Titanic as a shield to protect her artistic independence.
Which is so ironic.
It is. But she credited that strategy with ensuring her long-term career longevity. It forced directors and audiences to see her as an actress of substance, not just the girl from the Big Boat movie.
And just to give you a sense of the scale of this rejection,
Yeah.
she turned down huge mainstream roles.
Yeah, in films like Shakespeare in Love and Anna and the King. Instead, she chose to do a low-budget drama called Hideous Kinky, which was shot before Titanic had even finished its global run.
And then in 1999, she really doubled down on the risk with Jane Campion's Holy Smoke.
This was maybe the boldest move of that immediate post-Titanic period. She played this really unlikable, manipulative Australian woman who joins a religious cult.
A huge departure from the elegant Raised DeWitt Bucarter.
Totally. The commitment was extreme. The film had explicit sex scenes and a now famous scene where her character urinates on herself. For a newly minted global star, this was practically artistic self-sabotage.
It was an effort to tear down her own marketable image.
And the critics saw it that way, but in a good way. Variety praised her for having the courage few young thests would be capable of.
Choosing a role that was explicitly designed to make her unlikable was a powerful statement of intent.
Absolutely. And she kept up that streak. In 2000's Quills, she took a supporting role as a sexually repressed laundress. Critic James Greenberg called her the most daring actress working today.
The consensus was building. She was chasing complexity, not box office.
And it's important to note that amid all this intense drama, she picked up a different kind of prize.
Yeah.
In 1999, she won a Grammy Award.
For Best Spoken Word Album for Children.
For narrating a story in Ikranta. Listen to the storyteller. Which is just a remarkable spread of achievements for someone still in her mid-20s.
An Oscar nomination, a BAFTA, global celebrity, and now a Grammy. She was diversifying her professional identity, even performing a successful song for the soundtrack of Christmas Carol, the movie in 2001.
But she got right back on the serious acting track. In 2001, she played the younger Iris Murdoch in the biopic Iris.
And that earned her her third Oscar nomination, this time for supporting actress.
It solidified the pattern. Even when she chose smaller films, they were critically rigorous and successful.
She then came back in 2003 for The Life of David Gale, and the motivation there was interesting.
Yes, she joined that project specifically to work with the director, Alan Parker, but also to use her platform to highlight the issue of capital punishment.
So even if the film itself got mixed reviews, her commitment was rooted in social commentary.
Right. By the early 2000s, she had fully established her anti-celebrity strategy. But a new kind of typecasting was starting to creep in.
The period piece. She was becoming the queen of the corset.
Exactly. And that realization prompted the next major strategic shift in her career.
She needed to break the historical drama mold.
Right. She actively started seeking contemporary roles, which led directly to what became a cultural touchstone, 2004's Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
A complete 180 from Rose or Marianne. She played Clementine Krasinski, this vibrant, impulsive, neurotic woman with constantly changing hair colors.
It let her tap into this quirky side of her personality that the period roles just didn't allow for. It was a conscious effort to break that English Rose persona once and for all.
And the preparation was different, too. She practiced kickboxing, and the director, Michel Gondry, encouraged a lot of improvisation.
It was recognized immediately as a major career turning point. Premiere magazine ranked her performance as one of the greatest of all time.
And she said it's one of her favorite roles, right?
She has. And she noted that its success prompted directors to offer her a much wider variety of modern parts. It shattered the typecasting. And of course, it earned her fourth Oscar nomination.
So she had sworn off period pieces, but she did make an exception that same year for Finding Neverland.
She did, but only because she felt this profound personal connection to the character, a mother's intense love for her children. For her, personal connection often overrides a career strategy.
Her focus really stayed on these complex, modern female struggles. In 2006, she did Little Children, playing an unhappy suburban housewife having an affair.
That was a difficult role for her because she struggled to sympathize with the character's actions, especially her neglect of her child.
But that difficulty is often the mark of a truly challenging part, isn't it? Finding the humanity without judgment.
Exactly. And she approached the vulnerability of that role with her signature honesty, particularly around the nude scenes. She was nervous about them, having had 2 children, but she saw it as an opportunity.
To normalize and promote a positive body image for women with, as she put it, imperfect bodies.
And that performance earned her 5th Oscar nomination.
Yeah.
At age 31, she became the youngest performer in history to get 5 Oscar nominations.
Just a stunning level of productivity and recognition.
Which then leads us to 2008. The absolute pinnacle of her film career in terms of awards.
2 landmark roles released at the same time, Revolutionary Road and The Reader.
For Revolutionary Road, she was the catalyst. She recommended the project to her then-husband, director Sam Mendes, and she was the one who reached out to Leonardo DiCaprio.
Reuniting the Titanic duo for a much darker, more intimate film.
And she dove deep into the psychology of this 1950s housewife, whose dreams have been crushed. She studied Betty Friedan's The Feminine Mystique for historical and psychological context.
The critics were just effusive. One called her the best English-speaking film actress of her generation.
A huge statement, but one that felt earned, given the strategic choices she'd made up to that point. And at the same time, she delivered The Reader.
A role she took after Nicole Kidman dropped out. She played Hanna Schmitz, an illiterate former Nazi concentration camp guard.
This was easily the most ethically complicated and demanding role of her career. The research was immense, studying the Holocaust, the history of SS guards, spending time with literacy groups to understand the deep shame of illiteracy.
And she talked openly about the struggle, didn't she? The struggle to play the part, honestly.
Right. She had defined the character's humanity, her shame, her secrets, without in any way excusing her horrific actions during the war.
And this is where we have to pause and analyze the complexity. The film itself was controversial.
It was. While Winslet received incredible personal praise, some historians criticized the film for alleged Holocaust revisionism, for making Hannah's illiteracy the central focus, and some argued making her an object of sympathy.
It's an ethical tightrope for an actor. You have to find the truth in the character no matter how monstrous their actions.
And she navigated that divide. The professional reward for it was historic.
Truly. She won the Golden Globe for both films that year. Best Actress for Revolutionary Road and Supporting Actress for The Reader.
She was only the 3rd actress in history to win 2 major Golden Globes in the same ceremony.
And then she won the Best Actress Oscar and the BAFTA for The Reader, also breaking her own record as the youngest person to get 6 Oscar nominations.
It was the ultimate vindication of her entire strategy, of that independent rebellion. She took 2 years off after that. She was clearly exhausted.
And when she came back, she shifted her focus, dominating television with the 2011 HBO miniseries Mildred Pierce.
And the timing was intensely personal for her. She'd recently divorced Sam Mendes, and she felt that Mildred's post-divorce life, the resilience, the need to reinvent herself, mirrored her own experience.
The scale of that project was intimidating. She was in every single scene of a 280-page script.
So she went all in. She collaborated on production and costume design. She even learned to bake pies and prepare chickens using period-appropriate methods. Total immersion.
And it was rewarded with her first Primetime Emmy, another Golden Globe, and a SAG Award. She had conquered prestige television.
And in that same year, 2011, she balanced that with big ensemble projects like Contagion and Roman Polanski's Carnage.
By this point, it was clear she had achieved total mastery over her career. She could move seamlessly between big-budget ensembles and these demanding, intimate character studies. Her strategy had paid off completely.
So now that we've traced the timeline, let's shift a bit and analyze her working method and her public persona, because they're so intrinsically linked to this strategy of authenticity.
The critical consensus on her is just overwhelming. She's considered one of the finest actresses of her generation. One critic had a great line saying she has the soul and attitude of a jobbing actress trapped in the body of a movie star.
That phrase perfectly captures her entire life strategy. She rejects the celebrity machine in favor of this pure, intense focus on the work itself.
And her preference is always for complexity. She's drawn to these thorny, potentially unsympathetic women.
Angst-ridden women, yeah. Women whose strong exteriors are hiding deep flaws and insecurities. She connects with roles about women who are struggling to find their path or navigating some kind of emotional damage.
And the foundation of all that is the preparation. Leonardo DiCaprio called her the most prepared and well-researched actor on set.
And she makes this key distinction herself. She says, "I don't want to act, I want to be." She finds the process both utterly exhausting and at the same time therapeutic.
Moving into the 2010s, she continued to seek out these transformative challenges. For the Steve Jobs biopic in 2015, she campaigned hard for the role of Joanna Hoffman.
This required intense linguistic work. She had to develop a Polish-Armenian accent, which she later said was the most difficult accent of her entire career.
And on set, she treated each of the film's 3 acts like a separate play, collaborating closely with Michael Fassbender to mirror their characters' intense dynamic.
And that meticulous dedication earned her another Golden Globe, another BAFTA, and her 7th Oscar nomination.
She also started actively seeking roles just for the sheer physical challenge, as if to prove her stamina, for The Mountain Between Us in 2017.
She sought out that role specifically for its physical demands. Filming took place at 10,000 feet in Western Canada in freezing, dangerous conditions.
And she did most of her own stunts.
She did. She described it as the most physically grueling experience of her career. For her, it seems like the hardship often deepens the performance. It connects the external struggle to the character's internal state.
But the sources also show this deep commitment to ongoing ethical reflection. She later publicly expressed regret over working with certain directors.
Right, specifically Woody Allen on Wonder Wheel and Roman Polanski on Carnage. It shows that her commitment to professional choice extends beyond the script itself and into the moral alignment of her collaborators.
Her most recent period has seen her return to television in a huge way, cementing her dominance in that prestige miniseries format. Mayor of Easttown in 2021 was a cultural phenomenon.
And she was in complete control of that project. She starred in it and was an executive producer.
Her attention to detail was total, starting with the accent. She insisted on learning the extremely difficult Delco accent, a specific Philadelphia English.
And to play Mara Sheehan, a detective dealing with the loss of a child to suicide, she created an elaborate backstory and worked extensively with a grief counselor.
The performance was universally praised. Critics called it a magnificent disappear-into-the-character performance. It earned her a 2nd Emmy, another Golden Globe, and another SAG Award.
And then she broke her 2-decade rule about blockbusters, but on her own terms, reuniting with James Cameron for Avatar, The Way of Water.
And this role required tackling massive physical challenges, but this time in the water.
Right. She committed fully to the motion capture, and, most incredibly, she learned to freedive. She mastered it to the point where she was able to hold her breath underwater for 7 minutes.
7 minutes. That set a new record for any film scene shot underwater.
It did. And here's the beautiful irony. Avatar. The Way of Water grossed over $2 billion worldwide.
Which means Kate Winslet now has 2 films in the ultra-rare $2 billion-plus club, along with Titanic. The commercial success is almost an accidental byproduct of her creative commitment.
And her passion project, Lee, about the war photographer Lee Miller, which she produced and starred in, further illustrates her commitment. Even a serious injury didn't stop her. She suffered 3 hematomas on her spine after a fall, but continued working through the pain.
This dedication to integrity extends so fiercely to her public image and her stance on body image and authenticity. This connects right back to her childhood bullying.
Oh, she has been one of the most outspoken actors against Hollywood body shaming. And this isn't just talk. She's taken legal action multiple times.
She won a libel case against Grazia magazine.
And donated the damages to an eating disorder charity. She also successfully sued the Daily Mail. This was a strategic defense of the authentic, flawed characters she chose to portray.
And her most famous battle was against digital alteration. When the British edition of GQ made her look thinner and taller in photos without her consent.
They had to issue a public apology. And now, she famously instructs magazines and brands not to digitally smooth out her wrinkles.
She even co-founded the British Anti-Cosmetic Surgery League with Emma Thompson and Rachel Weisz.
It was an explicit act of public solidarity aimed at encouraging natural aging in an industry obsessed with manufactured youth.
And this commitment to authenticity also explains her willingness to do nude scenes, which she's done in over a dozen films.
She insists she only does them if the nudity contributes significantly to the narrative. She believes that showing, quote, imperfect bodies in those scenes promotes a positive body image for women. It's consistent with her whole mantra. If the role demands truth, she will deliver it, flaws and all.
And the resilience we see in her professional career is absolutely mirrored in her personal life, especially with her family structure, which she herself calls unconventional.
She's married 3 times, but she's adamant that this doesn't make her family less of a family.
And we have to acknowledge her first significant relationship. At 15, she started dating an actor-writer named Stephen Treadray, who is 12 years older.
Right. They lived together, and even after they broke up, they remained very close until his death from bone cancer in 1997. And this had a profound, lasting impact on her.
The timing is just heartbreaking. She skipped the London premiere of Titanic to go to his funeral.
And even in 2008, over a decade later, she said she had never fully gotten over his death. That early loss, it undoubtedly reinforced her focus on what's real and meaningful, and probably contributed to her rejection of Hollywood superficiality.
Her first marriage was to Jim Threppleton, an assistant director she met on a film set. They had their daughter Mia, who's now an actress herself, and then divorced in 2001.
Then she married the director Sam Mendes in 2003. They had their son Joe, who is now a writer and actually wrote her upcoming 2025 film. They moved to New York, partly to escape the British tabloids.
But they divorced in 2011, a split she found heartbreaking, but one she handled with this fierce determination to protect her children from the public fallout.
And then comes her third marriage, which has an origin story that sounds like it was ripped from a movie script she would never agree to be in.
She met Edward Abel Smith, who was then known as Ned Rockerell.
In 2011, while vacationing on Necker Island.
Wait, you said vacationing, but the sources are more specific. They met during a house fire, right?
Yes, that's correct. Richard Branson's house on the island caught fire after being struck by lightning. Winslet reportedly helped carry Branson's mother to safety, and amidst all that chaos, she met Edward Abel Smith, who is Branson's nephew.
That is just unbelievable. The actress who specializes in angst and turmoil literally meets her third husband while escaping a burning building.
Indeed. They married in 2012 and had their son Bear in 2013. And there's this fascinating detail about their family cohesion. He later added Winslet as a middle name.
That's very unusual. Why did he do that?
Simply so that when the family travels, they all share the same surname on their passports, making life easier for the children. He's now a stay-at-home dad, helping her practice lines. Just speaks volumes about their priority on stability.
That emphasis on family is central to her decision-making. She schedules her work around school holidays, turns down jobs that would keep her away for too long.
Beyond her immediate family, her commitment to activism is deeply integrated into her public platform. In 2010, she co-founded the Golden Hat Foundation for Autism Awareness.
And this wasn't a casual choice. It was inspired directly by an Icelandic documentary about a nonverbal child. She even wrote a book, The Golden Hat, which was featured by the UN on World Autism Awareness Day.
She actively uses her commercial partnerships with brands like Lancôme and Longines to raise funds and awareness for the foundation. She uses the celebrity machine she normally avoids for very specific targeted goals.
And she uses her platform for other very specific causes. She narrated a video for PETA against the production of foie gras.
And, tying back to her own painful childhood, she narrated an anti-cyberbullying animated film. In a very direct act of generosity, she, along with DiCaprio and James Cameron, personally contributed $30,000 to cover the nursing home fees for Milvina Dean, the last living Titanic survivor.
And finally, her commitment to using her fame for legislative change was never more apparent than after her work on the 2022 drama I Am Ruth, which she produced and starred in with her daughter, Mia.
That drama focused explicitly on the negative effects of social media on young people's mental health. She won 2 BAFTA TV awards for it, Best Actress and Best Single Drama. And she used her acceptance speech as a direct demand.
Not for platitudes.
No. She urged lawmakers to criminalize harmful digital content. a move that placed her firmly in the realm of political advocacy.
It's such a powerful full-circle moment. The girl who was bullied in childhood is now demanding systemic governmental change to protect children from the very forces she spent her career battling.
So if we look back at the entire arc of her career, from the poverty of her youth to the summit of global recognition, we see this fascinating study in intentional self-definition.
And resistance. She made a deliberate choice not to let Titanic define her, steering her career away from the easy commercial path toward these demanding, complex, often uncomfortable roles.
She achieved something incredibly rare, prioritizing being the jobbing actor with creative control over being the movie star dictated by the studio system.
She consistently chose material that required immense emotional synthesis, whether that meant learning the Delco accent, freediving for 7 minutes, or baking 1930s-style pies.
And her strategic resilience, her ability to rebuild after divorces, maintain family stability, and fiercely protect her authentic image, it just parallels her on-screen affinity for these complex women who are finding their way through major life struggles.
And the awards are the definitive proof that the strategy worked. She's amassed an Oscar, 5 BAFTAs, 5 Golden Globes, 2 Emmys, and a Grammy, which means she is just 1 award away from the coveted EGOT.
The EGOT, for anyone unfamiliar, is winning an Emmy, a Grammy, an Oscar, and a Tony Award. She has the E, G, and OO. Earning a Tony for her stage performance is the only piece missing.
She stands, without question, among the very top echelon of global performers. But as we bring this deep dive to a close, there's one last provocative thought to consider.
Winslet recently made her directorial debut with the film Goodbye June, a film written by her son Joe Anders.
So given her decades-long track record of intense preparation, her ability to synthesize character depth, and her passion for projects that reflect personal or social commitments,
what specific new layer of artistic complexity might emerge now that she is the one telling the stories from behind the camera rather than just embodying them in front of it?
her era as Winslet the director is just beginning, and given her history, we can safely predict that whatever she chooses to focus on, it will be challenging, intense, and absolutely uncompromisingly authentic.
And that's a wrap on our deep dive into the strategic career of Kate Winslet. Thank you for joining us.